Hi there, Tracy Nutton here. Today I'm going to be creating this lovely card for you using a range of Sweet Poppy Stencils products. As you can see, this main focus point here will be done using the beautiful chestnut leaf stencil. For the image in the centre here, I'll be using the rounded pumpkin stamp. For the sentiment and the beautiful leaf interest on the background, I will be using stamps from the Autumn Leaf stamp set. The colours that I'll be using today are Distress Oxide Inks Gathered Twig, Spice Marmalade and Crackling Campfire. And for the background leaves, I will be using VersaFine Claire's Shady Lane. The sentiment and the pumpkin will be stamped using VersaFine Nocturne. I'm going to be using some brushes today to apply the ink colour, and then to add the colour to the pumpkin I will be using a range of polychromos pencils. So today I begin my card using a 14 by 14 piece of card. I'm going to place that piece of card on my magnetic sheet, and then I'm going to line up my stencil. This is more or less the same size card as the stencil, so it should cover it up, but just in case I will definitely mask around the outside. I'm going to be using Sweet Poppy Stencils low tack tape. So to begin with, I'm going to use the spiced marmalade, and I'm just going to make sure that I go around the whole of the stamp, just adding some colour to it to make sure that everywhere is covered, and then I can add accent colours to bring out the rest that you can see here. So here these were added after the orange, the marmalade, spice marmalade was applied. So I'm going to just work in small circular motions as I go round. And for this card I decided that it doesn't actually matter if you go just slightly outside the edge, because it will add to the effect. Just circular motions, working my way around, making sure that every area has a base colour on it. Now moving on to my Gathered Twigs and Crackling Campfire. For these I'm going to use the slightly more detailed brushes here. So you wipe on and wipe off, don't want it to be too flooded, and then just work in some detailed areas just to give it some contrast, make it look a bit more alive and not so 2D. I'm going to work some of this into the background as well. Again, just to add some interest, build up that colour. Blending it across as we go. Going to add some up here. So when doing this, I try to add 3 areas of similar colours, creating a triangular shape so that it's pleasing to the eye. And then to bring it all back together, I will go back in with the spice marmalade. So let's get some of this on here. So again, going in, kind of gives it that autumnal feel, even though we're in spring coming into summertime. I absolutely love this stencil. When I saw this, I just fell in love with it. Going to add a little bit of the red in here, again creating that triangle of colour. And then blending this all back in together again with the spice marmalade. So if you're ever adding colour and you have a bit of a panic and think, oh no, I've just splodged it on, it doesn't look how I expected it to, just keep adding the orange colour over the top, or whichever colour it is, and then you will slowly see it start to blend and mix in as you add extra colours. Now I can start bringing this into the centre, just to give it a uniformed look, should I say. So twisting it around, blending all these beautiful autumnal colours together, bringing it in. And there isn't really a rule of thumb, just if you like the look of it, then other people probably will too. So blending this part around here, making sure that each area of those leaves are coloured. That's the lovely thing about the oxide inks, they do tend to blend really, really well together, and they do complement each other as well. So let's have a little look and see. So again, when taking this stencil off, make sure that you're very careful, because otherwise you'll end up with inky fingers. So put my finger in the centre, bend the magnetic sheet back, and just gently lift off that stencil, being very careful. There we go. And as you can see, we now have a really beautiful autumnal background. So for the next part of this card, I'm going to grab my stamp press. I'm going to place my image in my stamp press into this corner here. Make sure that everything's in shot for you. And just tuck it into the corner so that it's nice and secure. And it's less likely to move around. So I'm going to grab my pumpkin. There we go. Place my pumpkin. I want it right in the centre. Let me place down my can't find my piece of acetate this time, but this will be fine. Plastic bag is equally as good. Just want to make sure that that image is as straight as possible. Oh, there's the acetate. Always the way. Okay, so I'm going to stamp it up or ink it up using VersaFine Clear, just gentle taps. Again, we want to just build up the colour ever so carefully. I have my little stamping buddy here. Usually, because the detail on here is quite fine, I tend to give it 2 layers. Actually doesn't need it, but just in case. Okay, take that one off, and then I'm going to use the beautiful happy birthday sentiment from the autumn leaf stamp set. Okay, there's the happy birthday, and I'm going to place that towards the corner here. Quite like where I had it before, so just having a quick look and see. Okay. And then I'm going to ink that up also with the VersaFine Nocturne Clear as well. A quick tap. Let the ink soak into the paper. Gently lift. Because it's gone on to oxides, I will give it one more layer of ink. There we go. It's much more vibrant and clear. Sometimes it just takes a couple of layers of ink just to go over the oxides. So let's move that to one side. So for the next part, I'm going to create the background. For that, I'm going to use another piece of card here. This card measures about 16.5 centimetres by 16.5 centimetres. I'm going to use the small stamp that was on the autumn leaves stamp set, this one here, and I'm going to just stamp around the outside edge. So let's make sure that we can see. For this I'm using Shady Lane. It's going to be first generation stamp. There are no rhymes or reasons, but I actually don't want to cover too much of it so that it becomes quite a busy background. So I'm just going to go around the edge, twisting and turning the stamp as I go. Some reaching towards the corner, some coming in from the corner. When you stamp off the page, it actually draws the eye out, so it will make it feel more like a picture, as opposed to if you'd have just gone in the rails of the border, it wouldn't have brought the eye out. It kind of would have stunted and kept your eye within the card. This actually makes it look further out and makes your card look finished, for want of a better word. So again, keep stamping, keep twisting, leaving lovely white spaces around the outside edge. The nice thing about using these small accent stamps like this is sometimes you can't always find a background paper that you like that matches your work, but this way I've created it so that I know it will work and it will match and it will complement my final piece. So I will leave this to one side to dry and I will bring this back over. So now we come to the colouring part of our project. So for this, again, I could have used watercolours. I could have made it very, very simple, really, really easy, and just coloured around the edge, brought it in. But actually sometimes people would like to know how to use polychromos pencils and other pencils that are not watercolours, and how to build up their confidence with a colouring pencil. So I thought I'd show you this today. Again, I'm not an expert. I colour in and I learn and taught myself by watching different videos on YouTube, just like everybody else, and also just following the stamp. These stamps have some really, really lovely tiny dots on them that indicate those darker areas, so they really do help you to build your confidence up when colouring. So for me, I just go around the outside of each segment of the pumpkin. And sometimes the first part of building your confidence up is just having the confidence just to put the paper, the pencil to the paper. So I'm going round the outside and remembering that this is just a piece of paper. If it goes wrong, that's fine. We can always start again, so it's fine. So again, tend to use gentle circular motions as I'm coming in, so that I'm giving the illusion that this is the light shining on it, and then those darker areas where the light wouldn't be able to get into those areas quite so easily. So building up that colour. Again, we go to our third colour. I kind of like to use 3 colours when I'm trying to build up and create a 3D effect on my stamp, so that you can create the illusion that it's coming out of the page a little bit easier using a range of colours. So again, nice and dark in here. Again, nice and dark in here. Those really lovely shaded areas, you can see, you can make them really nice and dark. Again, using different pressures, so applying more pressure when you're in those areas, lifting the pressure on the pencil as you gently come out, helps to make that more fluid. So again, building up that colour. And I'm not worried if I make a mistake. Because this is pencil, colour pencil, and I'm using quite light pressure, you can use a rubber just to make sure that you're happy with your blending. So let's go around once more, create those really lovely dark areas on this side. Again, dark here towards the back end of the pumpkin, again in here, nice and dark as we go around this part. It goes down into the stalk, blending it round. Okay, I'm going to go back to my lighter colour and just bring that colour in. So it just blends those colours all together. Okay, again, bringing that light yellow, it kind of brings all those colours together. Similar when we're inking and we go back over again with our lighter colours, it helps to blend and bring all those colours together. Again, we go back to the slightly darker colour, add in more interest, more shading. And then my final time back in with my darkest colour, just to make sure I'm adding that really lovely effect and the illusion of shadow, light and dark and shade, as you can see. So a little bit of a trick here. So I like these areas, but as you can see, well, you might not be able to see on camera, but here I've kind of got just a line of pencil that I didn't need there. So just gentle with the rubber, and then that brings those lovely areas back and takes out any stray lines that you might have gone over by accident. Okay, just would like to just make that bit darker at the back. And there we have it. So to create and ground our pumpkin, I'm going to use a couple of shades of grey. I always start with a lighter one first, just to build up my confidence and just to give me an idea of where I would like that shadow effect to be. Thinking that the shadow area would come slightly behind the pumpkin to make it look more grounded. Just working my way around. Okay, now I'll go in with the dark. Now the dark area needs to stay towards the pumpkin. Again, not an expert, but just trying to create the illusion that the pumpkin is sitting on something. Bring it round. There we go. Now I can go in and out to create the effect that the pumpkin is sitting on something. There we go. Nice and dark into those areas, and then coming out lighter. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, you're just creating the illusion that the pumpkin is sitting on something, and sometimes it's nice just to go around that edge just to make sure that there aren't any light areas. But as you can see now, our pumpkin is grounded. So very quickly into our leaves. So I always just a very light shading of one colour, again the same as I did with the pumpkin, again here and this leaf here, and then in with another shade just to go and give that a bit more depth. Just following around those darker areas. These stamps are great for showing us where the shading should be, which is really lovely. So again, looking at those lights and darks, giving those leaves some definition, again in with a different shade. And that's why I said 3 colours is really lovely, so that you can really create something that looks quite natural. In nature, leaves obviously are not all one colour, so just bringing the eye out from the darker areas. And again, the same here. Okay, So there we have our finished pumpkin. So all we need to do now is back that onto our layers. So I decided that I'm going to go in with a really lovely black border, so that all of the black in here will draw the eye out. So to create that really lovely illusion, you just want to keep making sure that you're bringing those colours out. So again, I'm using the lovely Sweet Poppy Stencils quick drying glue. Gives me a little bit more drying time and a little bit more wiggle room. So let's put that on here. And it only has to be a small border, but it really will make the difference between you framing your work. Then again, as I always do, remove the corners using double-sided tape. And then I can map that onto our leafy background that we created earlier. And as you can see, the green in the leaves here then follow the eye out. Being careful not to get my inky fingers on my card. And then I'm going to map and layer that again onto black, again framing my work. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed this card today, and then it's given you the courage and the, if you're not very confident, I'm hoping it's giving you the courage and the confidence to give colouring a go. It's always practice makes perfect, and as we say, it is only a piece of card, so I definitely think sometimes it's worth giving things a go. And then finally I'm going to matte and layer that, onto our final base card. The base card is 7 by 7. But as with all things with crafting, you need to give it a go and build up your confidence and practice. And the more you practice and the more you try out these techniques, the more confident you feel. So thank you for joining me today for my video tutorial. As you can see, very, very similar. And thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of the inspiration day with Sweet Poppy Stencils. Thank you again. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.